Greetings and welcome. How are we all feeling at the moment? Today's topic is on introversion versus extroversion. And now there is a common debate that has been going on for years and years and years. Which one is better? Which one is worse? And we don't always realize, but we operate out of these. And introversion and extroversion are just ways of how we operate in our conscious minds, whether we operate externally or internally. And there's nothing wrong with being an introvert, and there's nothing wrong with being an extrovert. But what about being an introverted extrovert or an extroverted introvert? Because then you get the benefits of both. And both have advantages and both have disadvantages. People may say that introverts are more retracted into themselves, have very high walls and don't really go out much, keep to themselves, very standoffish, don't like to socialize really, and that could be a disadvantage. But an advantage could be more time for self-introspection, developing new skills, discovering new hobbies, doing research, learning new things internally. Being an extrovert could mean that you don't have a lot of time for yourself, you're not really internally focused, so you're not always aware of what you're thinking and feeling. But on the other hand, extroversion can also be advantageous because you are making connections, you are creating opportunities, you are gaining fulfillment. So you see, it's all about how you look at it and how you use it. But both introversion and extroversion have their advantages and disadvantages. Remember, introversion can be very isolating. People who are introverts tend to have very rigid boundaries, don't let people in, don't like being vulnerable, don't like being open, don't really like socializing, venting, all of that kind of thing because of fear of vulnerability, judgment, rejection, abandonment. And it can be very challenging for introverts because a lot of introverts may feel very lonely or very alone, because being fully, completely 100% introverted can lead to feelings of isolation, and that can be very, very difficult and very unfulfilling. On the other hand, too much extroversion leaves you less time for self-introspection, as I said. So you are less aware of what you're thinking. You're not able to really manage your thoughts as well as someone who, say, would be more introverted, would be able to handle their thoughts and their emotions better. As an extrovert, you are more in tune with what other people are thinking and feeling, but you're not so in tune with what you're thinking and feeling, what's going on for you in your reality. And you may even struggle with your relationship with yourself, your perspective of yourself, your self-concept. You may have a lot of confidence, but you may not relate to yourself very well. But introversion can mean a lack of social life, those big cement walls that don't allow anyone in, and you become very lonely, very isolated, and it's a very challenging journey to be completely introverted when you are so alone that you don't seek support anymore. And the sad thing is with introversion is the neglect of social life. Remember, the quality of your relationships determine the quality of your life. We cannot be lonely and isolated forever. It's not good for us. It's not good for our psyches. And you don't have to have this massive social life, but have a few people that you can talk to, spend some time with, get out of your head a little bit and just enjoy those 2 hours of just being completely immersed in socializing because it's good for you. And too much extroversion can lead to issues in a relationship, such as not understanding the self fully, not being able to self-manage and self-regulate properly. And it can be very challenging to love yourself and to understand yourself and to get to know yourself and to define yourself. It can be very difficult to do all of these inner self processes when you are extremely extroverted. The inner relationship can suffer because you're so externally focused that what's going on in here is neglected. What's going on up here is neglected. And the thing is, introverts tend to experience a lot more anxiety because they are so alone in their thoughts that they create these scenarios and these future outcomes and these ideas of what things should be and shouldn't be. And all of this creates a lot of mental distress, and it creates a cycle of severe stress, worry, panic, fear of what's going to happen, and discomfort within themselves and anxiety within themselves and not feeling comfortable within themselves because they're constantly stressed, constantly worried. And if you worry and worry, you just put yourself through the situation twice. And introverts tend to overthink a lot and create a lot of future scenarios and assumptions and things like that that lead to very severe anxiety. On the other hand, extroverts experience depression. Depression from past experiences, how people expect them to be, what they think people want them to be. And it can be very, very difficult because extroverts are more likely to base their current relationships upon their past relationships. And remember, depression only comes from the past. Anxiety comes from the future. And introverts tend to stay more in their past. They're not very future focused. They're more focused on what has happened in the past, what rejection they experience from other people. Because remember, to extroverts, they care a lot about what other people think, and we all do, even though we don't want to admit it. In a way, we do, and extroverts tend to care just a little bit more, and they tend to relate past with present, and that's what causes the depression. And you can be introverted you can be introvertedly extrovert and extrovertedly introvert. In fact, that would be a healthier way of seeing things. If you are more introverted, you can be an introverted extrovert. If you are more introverted, you can be an extroverted introvert. It's all about what you make use of, that you make use of the advantages of both, so that you are getting good self-introspection, but you're also getting good social exposure, and you are also immersed in your external world, not just in your internal world the whole time. So focus on being an introverted extrovert or an extroverted introvert, and use that to your advantage. Now, there is the internal locus of control and the external locus of control. With your internal locus of control, you are more internally focused, you're more conscious in your internal world. And external locus of control, which means your consciousness resides in your external world. So, it's your introverts, your extroverts. Your internal locus of control, your external locus of control. Extreme introversion or extroversion can cause relationship issues because either you are too withdrawn or you are too busy out there. You are too out there. You're not willing to be on a more bonding level and on a more quiet level. So you see, introversion and extroversion both have their place, and both have their advantages and their disadvantages. It's all about how you use it and what you do to recharge, but also make sure that you are fulfilled from both self-introspection and living in your external world. So remember, you are unique and valuable. Take care of that stunning person. Stay strong wherever you're from. You are worthy.